We're good? Good evening, Baruchim Habayim Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night's class. What's the name, bud? Ask him. Tonight's class is sponsored by a dear friend Reuven for good food. No. The happiness, health, and success in everything I'm in. Inspired by PURIM KATAN, Abba Aleinu L'Tova, I want to speak a little bit about Adar Rishon and Adar Sheni. And maybe we'll blend it with the Parashat, depending on what the time allows us to do. Last week we mentioned a little bit of the idea of Mazal Adar Dagim in plural, because there are years that we have two Adars. So now we want to get a little more specific. In Ilchot Megillah, in Siman Tafresh Pei Vav Sif Katan Chet, the Mishnah Berurah brings down the din of the Gemara, that the Gemara teaches us. We're going to just quote let's quote it right. Kashem Kshemichnas Av Mima'atim B'Simcha, just like when the month of Av comes in, we lessen our level of joy. So too, Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. When Adar comes in, we elevate our level of joy. In previous years, we asked why mix Av into Adar, and there are many explanations on that. What's the criteria of the time? The Gemara says, "Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha." Are we talking about the whole month, part of the month, only the holiday of Purim? What exactly do we mean? So the Mishnah Berurah talks about it. The Mishnah Berurah brings down that the kavanah, of course, means the whole month of Adar, not just the holiday of Purim itself. Because if it was just a holiday, so every holiday is a mitzvah to be happy, so it would be no different than any other holiday. If we had to emphasize a law that has to do with a month, so it must mean that we're talking about the entire month. Fine. Believe it or not, there are poskim that take this, and it really is based on a Ramban, and they say this simcha carries through into Chodesh Nisan, because there's a direct connection in a future weeks we will explain between the month of Adar and Nisan. And then if you look in the Ramban says that it goes into Iyar and Sivan as well. So right there you got a third of the year, 4 months right off the bat. This year is 5 months. But now we got to go a little further. Why? So if you look good, the Magen Avraham, it's also brought down in Sha'ar Tzion, the Magen Avraham says like this: the Chazal teach us midat tova meruba mimidat puranut. Mimidat puranut. That means something good is always more than something that's in a negative context, or something that doesn't sound so happy or healthy. So if in the month of Av we have a part of the month of Av until Tu B'Av, let's say, or until Yud Av at least, that there's definitely a point of mourning. So in the month of Adar is a midat tova, it's something positive. So it has to be a lot more. So definitely it has to mean that we are happy the entire month. But really it's clear in the Megillah, and the Magen Avraham brings it down, that in the Megillah it says, "V'achodesh asher nehefach lahem miyagon l'simcha," the month that turned around for them from sadness to joy. So you see that the holiday of Purim really is a month. By the way, there was a great rabbi who they gave him a nickname or a name that's historically argued, Rav Eisel Charif. His name was definitely Rav Eisel. The question is if Charif was a nickname given after the fact that he was an extremely sharp man, or that was his literal last name, but one way or the other. Rav Eisel Charif said that he doesn't understand the whole idea behind Purim, because what's Purim? That Haman wanted to kill the Jews in one day. God turned it around and made it that that the Jews were able to take control over their enemies. So suddenly we have a holiday. Okay, he says up to here he understands. He says, but Haman wasn't an idiot. He had to have some sort of rationale. So to kill a whole nation in one day, you can't do. It's physically impossible. So he went to Achashverosh, who was also a rational person, or at least to a point. And he said, "Lashmid la'arog la'abed kol ha'yudim," whatever. In what? Biyom echad. In one day. You can't do that. Haman's grandson, Hitler, Yamach Shemo V'Shem Zichro, killed 6 million Jews over the course of a bunch of years. It didn't happen in a day. Even the greatest uprisings and the greatest tragedies, today with atomic bombs you can kill millions in a day, but in general there's no such thing. So what was Haman thinking? So Avayz L'Charif, I don't know if he meant this seriously or in a humoristic way, but one year in the Sudat Purim said a pshat like this. He said that Haman was not only smart, he was also stingy. What does it mean stingy? Chazal teach us, for example, about Ephron, that he had a ra'ayin, he had a bad eye. He didn't want to see others do well or be happy or be successful. People that have a bad eye, that's the way they are. Haman was the ultimate guy. He had the ultimate bad eye, and he hated Jews, so his bad eye was directed towards Jews. Haman knew the Jewish history very well. He was raised by Mordechai. He worked for Mordechai for many years. He was technically his slave. And he knew that when Jews have a tragedy that turns around to being a happy day, that they're saved from tragedy, they turn it into a celebration. So Haman said, could be his plot's going to work, but could be the God of the Jews is going to save them. If he saves them, they're going to make a holiday. Because if I designate a month or 2 months or 3 months, that's the killing period of the Jews, what am I going to do? See the Jews party for 3 months straight? No way in the world. And therefore he said, B'yom echad, even though it wasn't realistic, just to cause that later on the Jews should only have 1 day. Came HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, you thought you're going to take away days of simcha from my children? V'shenichnas Adar, the whole month of Adar, malbim b'simcha. Because that's really what it should have been. So Vayz L'Charif's pshat. Khatam Sofer also brings down, by the way, in Nagaot and Shulchan Aruch, the same idea that the Mishnah was posek, that the whole month of Adar, it has a chiyuv simcha. So now the question is, this chiyuv of simcha that we have in the month of Adar, is it specifically for the second month of Adar, which is when we celebrate Purim, or does it apply in the first Adar that we're currently in right now? So in the Sheilot V'Tshuvot of the Yavetz, in Chelek Bet Siman Peichet, the Yavetz brings down that B'Shana Mu'uberet, in a leap year, Ein Simcha Noheget Ela Ba'Adar Sheni. The idea of the Simcha of Adar is only in the second Adar, it's not in the first Adar. That's the way he writes. Why? Mipnei Shu Samuch LeNisan Shegam Na'asu Bo Nisim LiYisrael Ve'em Yimei Nisim U'Tzufim. Because the second month of Adar is the one that's attached to the month of Nisan. Nisan is also a month of miracles that happened to the Jews coming out of Egypt. And therefore, a month of miracles in a leap year is the second month of Adar. It's connected to another month of miracles which continues the cycle of Adar, Nisan, and so on. That's what the Yavetz writes. This is brought down in many other Sfarim as well, including the Tshuva Ma'ava and Rav Zalman and Yichot Shlomo and many others as well. But if you look at Vozna and Shevet HaLevi, Vozna writes an interesting thing. Vozna writes that he disagrees with this, and he brings proof from a Khatam Sofer and Sheilot V'Tshuvot and Choshen Mishpat. It's a Khatam Sofer talks about something else, but he proves it from there clearly. And not to complicate things, I won't go through it all, but if you want to look it up, it's in the end of Siman Chaf, in the Sheilot V'Tshuvot, Khatam Sofer and Choshen Mishpat. Rav Vozna proves from there in Shevet HaLevi the opposite, that the mitzvah of Simcha goes on the first month of Adar equally to the second month. It's not just one Adar, it goes both ways. First and second month have an equal thing. And really, it's much more like that from the Mishnah and from the Gemara, because in the Mishnah and the Gemara it says clearly, Ein ben Adar Rishon l'Adar Sheni, only certain things. And Simcha doesn't say that. That means, if you look in the simple understanding of the Mishnah and the Gemara, the inyan of Simcha is in the entire month of Adar. If that's the case, so we can continue on. What happens when it comes to the first Purim Katan? How does that work? So in Shulchan Aruch it says like this. In Taf Reish Tzadik Zayin, it says that in the day of Yudalit and the day of Tetvav, meaning Purim and Shushan Purim, of Adar Rishon, meaning Katan, Ein noflim al peneihem, we don't say Tachanun, ve'ein omrim mizmor Yancha Hashem, we don't say a mizmor of Yancha Hashem b'yom tzara, and ve'asurim, it is not permissible, be'esped v'ta'anit. You're not allowed to fast, and you can't say eulogies if somebody passes away. Aval shal dvarim, other things, ein nohagim bahem. We don't have a custom to do other things. Lichora, what clearly says in the Shulchan Aruch, other things would mean a celebration of Purim in the first Adar. Or the Mitzvot of Purim in the first Adar wouldn't apply, because it doesn't fall under that criteria. So, Maran, so far, soon we'll see more, the simple understanding is the Simcha exists for the reasons we explained, that's the whole month of Adar, but on the days of Purim Katan, and Shushan Purim Katan, you don't say Tachanun, it's Asur Be'esped V'Ta'anit, but beyond that, everything else is not applicable. Comes the Rama and says, the Maran continues, and says, V'yesh omrim, some say, Sh'af Be'esped V'Ta'anit Mutarim. They are even allowed to fast and say a eulogy on Purim Katan. Comes the Rama and says that the svara is like the De'ah Rishona, which is also the halacha, by the way, that the logic is that it's asur be'esped v'ta'anit, because at the end of the day it does resemble Purim on one level. And then the Rama continues and says like this, Yesh omrim, some people say, shechayav la'arbot b'mishteh v'simcha b'yudaled sheba'adar rishon. That one is obligated to be marbeh, to make extra. Mishteh is drinking, v'simcha, enjoy, Suda, and so on. Also on Yudaled Adar Rishon. Ve'eino agim ken. But that's not our custom. That's what the Rama writes. Umikol makom, but even though our custom is not to make a whole celebration on Purim Katan, comes the Rama and says, Yarbek tzat v'suda. He should make a little bit more of a celebration. Kidei latzet yedei hamachmirim. In order to be yotzei yedei chova, for the more stringent opinion that says that you're obligated to making a Sudat Purim. And the Rama ends this segment off with a quote from a pasuk of a verse, V'tov lev mishtet tamid. Somebody who has a good heart always has a reason to celebrate. That's the way the Rama ends off. So what comes out of the Rama? To make a full-blown Sudat Purim like we do in Adar Rishon, that we don't do. In Adar Rishon we don't do. But to be marbeh tzat b'simcha, to have a little extra of a celebration on Purim Katan, that we do. That we do keep. Why? Because through that we bring ourselves to the level and to the idea of Tov lev mishtet tamid, that good-hearted people have a inyan of simcha. This is not so simple. If you look in the Mishnah Berurah writes clearly from the Agarot Tashbetz and others that the minhag is that we do make a celebration and we invite people, guests and friends, and we make a party and we make a big simcha, not just a small simcha that he says la'abot k'tzat b'simcha. There is an Arugot Abosim in Sheilot V'Tshuvot that says, what's the Rama saying? V'tov lev mishtet tamid. Make up your mind. You want, if v'tov lev mishtet tamid, so what does that have to do with Purim? Every day. That would apply every day of the year. And if not, what at all? Why Purim Katan? What's this middle road over here? So now Arugot Abosim, he writes a simple thing, that the Rama says that one shouldn't think that when he makes some sort of celebration in Purim Katan, that nullifies him from his obligation of Purim in the second month of Adar. It's an addition. It's not an alternative. It's not instead of. And therefore, the Rama says, "V'tov lev mishtet tamid." Don't. It's a simcha, but remember that the chiyuv you still have going on later on. By the way, there's a Ktav Sofer in Parashat Tetzaveh, this week's parasha, that the Ktav Sofer has a very interesting dilemma, and he comes out with an interesting chumrah over there, that there's a reason to send mishloach manot on Purim Katan in Adar Rishon. The candy stores didn't pick up onto this yet, otherwise they'd be advertising all over. Maybe they should find out about this Ktav Sofer, it's good for business. But he writes that clearly. It's interesting. I'm not sure, he bases it off this idea of the Rama, and he says, what's a Sudat Purim without mishloach manot? Yeah? If you already have friends over, so friends give each other gifts, and they bring each other food and things, and therefore he writes what he writes. This is the halachic, a very, very brief summary of the halachic element of Purim Katan. So now I want to take this and take it a little bit of a step further. Let's take it a step further. There's a very famous story with Reb Chaim Tzanz. Reb Chaim Tzanz was the Divrei Chaim, so that he said over a story from another great tzaddik, Moshe Leib Sasave, Zecher Tzadikim Livracha. That once he was walking down the street and he saw some poor person on the street. And the reason why he went out to the street was Moshe Leib Sasave never used to go out to the streets. It wasn't for him. But that day he felt he didn't do enough chesed, so he said he's going to walk out to the street to look to do chesed with somebody. That's what he said. No, there is such a thing, by the way. It's not far-fetched. It's by walking down the street you can do a lot of chesed. I'll give you an example. This past Sunday I was with another acquaintance of mine. We went to see some stuff, whatever, for business. And we were in the car, and by some random traffic light that we were at somewhere in Pennsylvania, I think it was. No, it was in Jersey, in South Jersey. One of these, I think they call themselves panhandlers, or I don't know, a heroin addict in simple English, was with a little cup. You got any spare change or whatever. And we believe in giving them money. Number one, because we wear kippahs, so it shouldn't be a chilul Hashem. They say stingy Jews and that. And number two, because at the end of the day, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav, even though lo aleinu, these people are ill with their illnesses and addictions, but at the end of the day, there's a certain amount of empathy and mercy. So we don't give them large money, but a quarter or something. This shouldn't be a chilul Hashem. My friend also adds on that years ago in Manhattan, once somebody came to him, I think it's illegal now in Manhattan to do this, but when it was still legal, or maybe they didn't enforce the law, somebody came to his window and asked him for change, and he didn't open the window, and the guy took some bar from the floor and broke his windshield. So he said it's cheaper to give a quarter than to have to replace a windshield. So that's his theory on giving them money. But to each his own. So we opened the window a little bit, halfway, for safety reasons, and neither one of us had change. I had a single, a $1 bill. We took the dollar bill, and he stuck it into the guy's cup. And when he stuck it into the guy's cup, the guy said, "Thank you very much. I knew I could always rely on my brothers." He said that, we pulled to the side of the road. We said, we're going to go on a little investigation what he meant. And we went to talk to him. So we're parked on the side of the road over there, hoping that our car survives this one. Talking to a guy on the side of the road who's holding one of these, got change signs. I could have made an interesting picture. And he tells us his story in 3 minutes, and we verified it throughout the week. He was a Jewish kid who grew up in a Jewish home, actually an Orthodox Jewish home. And lo aleinu, things went wrong in his life we should never know. And he ended up on the streets, and from there went downhill and downhill and downhill, and he got to where he got to. And my friend that second said, this is his life project now. He's going to get this guy to be normal. Well, less than 5 days later, and this gentleman is in rehab, that's being paid for by my friend, not cheap, private rehab, top of the line, and this is going to be his life project. He says, this guy, I'm going to turn him into a ben Torah one day, no matter what it costs, no matter what it takes. He said, why? He said, if he called me a brother, so I have to be a brother. It's a big lesson. Chesed on the street. Other people say, you're crazy. What are you even talking to these people for? What you open your window for? No, so if out of the 1,000 times that we did this together, I don't know if it was 1,000, right? We didn't do it together 1,000 times for sure. But let's say combine 1,000 times we gave random homeless people money. We caught one. That was also worth it. 1,000 quarters is not that much money, right? So for that, we're now able to save a life. It's an amazing thing. No. So he went to Sasava, went out to the street to look for chesed. He finds a poor person and he asks him, how could I help you? What does the person, what does the poor person tell him? Yeah, you could help me. He said, how could he? So he says, how could I help you? What do you want? You want money, food, this? He said, no, I don't want money, I don't want food. He says, what do you want? He says, I want alcohol, I want a drink. Give me something to drink. This is it, this is what he told him. You would think some great rabbi hears that, he would say, wait, I'm going to support bad habits, right? That's what we would expect. He didn't say that. He said, you want a drink? Sure. He took him with him to the first store he saw, and he bought something for him to drink, and he gave it to him. And the guy was very thankful. And he said, no, we're not going anywhere yet. You're coming with me. So he says, where am I going with you? He says, this I just brought you so I could do the mitzvah right away, so I can give you something right now. But really, I want to give you more than this. I don't want to just give you this. So come with me. It's hard to believe this story. If the Divrei Chaim didn't say it over, you wouldn't be allowed to say it over. The holy Rav Moshe Leib Sasova went walking with him down the streets until he found what was called an expensive bar. A place where they sell very high-end drinks. And he went inside the place with him. And he went to the person who served. We would call it a bartender. I just feel almost uncomfortable saying over the story in those terms. And he told him, find the most expensive bottle that exists here and give it to this person. And let me pay for it. And he took a very expensive bottle and he gave it to a poor that probably doesn't know the difference between this and this, and paid for it. And the guy was as happy as could be, and they walked out together. When they walked out together, he turned to him and he told him, you already bought me a drink in the other store. Why'd you take me here? He says, because I wanted to buy you a drink. And to buy you a drink is a mitzvah. A mitzvah, you want to do behiddur, so I wanted to buy you something good. The other store didn't have something good, so I took you here to buy you something good. So he said, if that's the case, Rabbi, I got a flip question. Why didn't you take me here right away? Why did we first stop at one store? Then probably the true answer there was, because what did the Sasova know about drinking, right? He wasn't So he walked into the store thinking. But he didn't answer him that. He says, very simple, why? Because to get here was another few blocks. And you wanted a drink. So first I had to get you a drink right away. And now I want to do the mitzvah in the best way. So I also want to get you a drink. A proper drink. That's what he told him. Why would the Divrei Chaim from Tzan say over such a weird story? If you think about it, the whole story makes no sense, from beginning to end. So the Divrei Chaim said over this story to explain the idea of Purim Katan. The Divrei Chaim said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that Am Yisrael needs help. It needs miracles, it needs salvation, it needs each one with his things. And the day that he gives a free hand, Kol HaPoshet Yad Notnim Lo, is on Purim. He said, but sometimes a person can't wait to Purim. The situation's bad. He needs a drink now. So Hashem made a day called Purim Katan, and he says, here I'm going to give you things to carry you over until Purim. And that's why the Divrei Chaim himself used to make a big deal out of Purim Katan. He would give blessings, and people even said over after he passed away that some of his blessings on Purim Katan were more powerful than the ones on Purim itself. That's how far it went. Unbelievable thing. How do you explain that part? But why would a blessing on Purim Katan be more powerful than a blessing on Purim itself? It's a pele if you think about it. It doesn't make sense, no? So I'm going to give you my analysis. I might be off the mark on this completely. I'm just giving you my opinion, and I'm stressing that. There's a very, very famous story from Baal Shem Tov that I'm sure we said over many times, probably more Rosh Hashanah Kippur context, but that there was once a town that had a situation, they were going to throw them out, and the Jews in the town, it was very common in the old anti-Semitic days, and they didn't know what to do, and whatever, they went to the Baal Shem Tov to give him a blessing. And the Baal Shem Tov said he can't help them. And the Baal Shem Tov says he can't help you, that's bad news, because what's left? That was the Rebbe. The Rebbe says he can't help. They expected the worst in the world at that point. So when they left, they told the Baal Shem Tov, if you can't help us, then what are we supposed to do? This is Klal Yisrael, everybody's in trouble. What are we supposed to do? So the Baal Shem HaKadosh told them a name of a guy and said, go to this and this guy and let him, and get a blessing from him. It was in a different town. They went to the other town, and they're imagining in their minds, right, the big tzaddik that they're going to see. If he's bigger than the Baal Shem Tov, how big does he have to be? They get to the town, they ask for Rabbi so-and-so. Nobody knows such a rabbi. Finally, one guy says, I know a guy with that name, but he's the farthest thing from a Talmid Chacham or a tzaddik. So he says, who's the guy? And he points to some drunk who's rolling in his throw up on the side of the street. Okay, by the Hasidim, there's a lot of beautiful things. But one of the beautiful things is when the Rebbe says something, they don't ask questions. So the Baal Shem HaKadosh said, so that's it. They went to the guy. They went to the guy and they said, give us a blessing, we should be okay. So the guy says, blessings cost money. Unfortunately today we have a whole movement of scam artists like that. They call themselves babos. Yeah, I call them capos, but they call themselves babas. Blessing costs money. It's the biggest chus in the world to give somebody a bracha. Hashem says, if you bless others, I'll bless you. Why does a blessing cost money? No, but he was a drunk. What do you want from him? So they said, fine, how much do you want? He says, I don't want to get paid in cash, I want to get paid with, and he gave him a name of a bottle of wine that he wanted. So they said, you want that bottle of wine? No problem, we'll get it for you. They went running to the local store, they bought him the bottle of wine, they brought it back to him, and he said, now, wait a minute. Opens up the bottle, Borei Pri HaGefen, and he drinks it like we drink water. Straight down, the whole thing, Bevat Achat. Beligima Achat, in one sip. He's done his bottle of wine, and he looks at the people and says, what do you want a blessing for? So they said, they're about to throw us out of town, and whatever. He says, nobody's throwing you out of town, get out of here. They said amen and went back to that town. By the time they came back to that town, they saw a huge celebration. What's the celebration? The ruler of the town that wanted to throw them out died, and the decree was nullified, and they were good to go. So they went to the Baal Shem Tov and said, Rebbe, wait a second, so we should all become drunks now? You, with all your Kedusha, couldn't do anything, and this drunk on the street bought a bottle of wine, drank it like it was water, he was able to do something? So the Baal Shem Tov said that this guy in Shamayim, his word is worth more than everybody together. Why? So the Baal Shem Tov said his background. He said this guy was the farthest thing from a Shomer Torah Mitzvot. In today's world, we would call him a player. And he used to do all the sins in the world. And he was very, very wealthy. And one day he sold everything he had, because he said, what do I need to work for? I have enough money. And he liquidated everything into cash, and he planned on living the rest of his life, going from city to city, town to town, doing all the averot possible. The more sins, the better. That was his plan. And he was doing it, and he was doing it successfully, from city to city, from town to town, one sin after the next. And one day he comes to one town, and he's going to go do some sin somewhere, and he's walking by the park of the town, and he sees a lady crying on a bench, and he goes over to her, and he says, what's wrong? And she tells him that she's a widow, and her daughter's supposed to get married that night, and she committed a certain amount of money towards the wedding, and she doesn't have it, and it's causing a dispute, which can end up ruining the wedding. And he said, how much money? And she said an amount which was an astronomical amount of money. He said, hold on a minute. And he opened up his little suitcase of money, and it was all his money he had except for 4 rubles. And he gave it all to her. Meaning his whole dream of what he was going to do for the rest of his life, he gave away on the spot. He said, in that moment in Shamayim, the angels came to God and told him, if there's a person that's willing to give his whole life away for a stranger, then he's a tzaddik gomer, he's the most righteous person in the world. What are you giving him back? What are you blessing him with? So Hashem said that he's blessing him with whatever comes out of his mouth is going to happen. That's the power he's giving him in exchange. No. Then the angel came back to God and said, wait a second. What happens if he decides to walk into a synagogue today and to pray mincha, or to pray avit, and he's going to say mechaya metim? What's going to happen? The graves are going to all open up. And it's not time for Mashiach yet. And even if Mashiach does come, Tchiyat HaMetim is only 40 years after Mashiach. What's going to be then? He's going to be in trouble. The problem is when God blesses, He doesn't take it back, right? Chazal say clearly. Midat puanu, something negative, Hashem takes back. But something positive, we never take back. Now he's in trouble. What do you do? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said he's going to make him a drunk. And like this, he'll never pray. And also, a shiko is a shoteh al pi halacha. He's not chayav b'mitzvot at that point, so he won't have any sins either. You know, he's potter from everything. And one day, at least he'll get Gan Eden. He'll come straight to Gan Eden. So the Baal Shem Tov said, I knew about that. And I knew that in Shamayim there's a decree and there's nothing to do. So I decided to send you to him. Because if he says that of his mouth, you're fine, then that's it. It has to happen in Shemayim. And that's how it worked. In the Sefer Ma'ayan HaMoed from Avshalom Valach, on the volume on Purim, he brings down this story from the Baal Shem Tov with a few more details that I've missed. And he says over there, on his own, based on this, that's his explanation in the Gemara that says that a person has to drink on Purim ad lo yada. He says, what type of mitzvah is this to get drunk? If anything, the whole Torah is against drinking. So he says, this is the explanation. That Purim is such a powerful day that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if I leave the Purim with the Jews sober, they're going to control the world from there on. Can't do that. So he gives you a mitzvah to get drunk, and like this you're not so coherent, and when you're not coherent you can't utilize the day, and that protects him. And that's the sacrifice that a Jew makes by keeping that mitzvah of drinking on Purim. And it's a catch-22, so what do you think, you're going to outsmart it and not drink? So you didn't do a mitzvah of Purim, so you have nothing to do with Purim anyway. So either way, you lost. Based on this, I want to say what my opinion is. I think in Purim Katan we got something that's bigger than Purim Gadol, the regular Purim. There's no mitzvah in Purim Katan to get drunk. And if a person behaves on Purim Katan like this Ktav Sofer, in a way that he's friendly with people, and on the terms of what Chazal say, Kol HaPoshet Yad Notnim Lo, that he goes with an open hand to Klal Yisrael, then Hashem tells him in return, Kol HaPoshet Yad Notnim Lo, just ask me, I'll give it to you. Midah keneged midah. So it's Purim Katan, because we hide it, we cover up for it. There's a secret we don't want everybody to know. But it's really Purim Gadol. It's so great. It's unbelievable what a person can accomplish. Unbelievable what a person can accomplish. A few years ago, this past Purim Katan, the one that happened before this one, it was just a couple of years ago. I had a very, very close friend who had certain problems. Hashem Yachim, we should never know. Medical problems. The doctors didn't give him any hope. It was a very bad situation. And he came to me for advice. I told him, listen, we already went through the whole medical world and this and that. My last piece of advice, which was my first piece of advice too, is Chazal say, Afilu cherev chadam munachat al tzavaro shel adam. Even if God forbid somebody has a sharp blade on his neck, meaning somebody's ready to kill him, Ali imnat tzol min al-chamim, prayer always works. He says, I can't buy that because you know how much I prayed, you know how much my friends pray for me, you know how many thousands of yeshiva students around the world of yeshivot that I support pray for me every day. It ain't working. I told him, right, but from Moshe Rabbeinu we learned that sometimes you just need one more prayer. He prayed 515 prayers to get into Israel, one more and he would have got in. He couldn't pray that one more because Hashem told him he's not allowed to, but in theory, sometimes you just need that one more. So he says, what could we do different about prayer? So I don't know why Hashem put this in my head, but Purim Katan was a couple of days later. And I told him, let me tell you what we could do different. You're not allowed to go to a grave of a rabbi on Purim Katan, because if you know from the Ari, any day that we don't say Anchashem B'Yom Tzara, you're not allowed to go to Kivot Tzadikim. But to the Kotel, you're allowed to go. Let's go to the Kotel. Let's fly to Israel, we'll go to the Kotel and we'll pray. In Jerusalem, it's a day later, it's Shushan Purim Katan. Then Shushan Purim Katan came out on Shabbat. What we call Shushan Purim Katan, which is their Purim Katan. So he told me, in my medical condition, I'm not allowed to go in a car, forget about a plane. I said, so I'll go for you. He said, that doesn't count. I said, so pay for the ticket. So he made me all the arrangements in a beautiful way, and I went. And Friday night, after dinner in the hotel that I was staying in, I walked to the Kotel, short walk, and I read the Tehillim by the Kotel, and Tavan Hashem Yishavu Refuah Shlema. Tzei Shabbat, I called him up, I told him, I did mine, I'm coming back to New York. I came back, a couple of days later he calls me, he says, I don't know if I'm hallucinating or not, but honestly I don't care, but I'm starting to feel better. I said, no, don't talk about it, Hashem shall help further, right? We don't need the doctors now anyway because they wrote you off. So now let's leave it up to Hashem. Fast forward whatever amount of time we're holding right now, the guy is 100% healthy, healthier than a young kid. And there's no trace in his body in any way, shape, or form that he was ever ill. And there is no medical explanation to this. I have the documents at home from the doctors that say there's no possible scientific way to explain how he's healthy. Power of a davening of Purim Katan. That's a crazy thing. I was the messenger. Hashem gave me the schus to be a messenger. It has nothing to do with me. It's just... Why? Because that's the day of Kol HaPoshet Yad Notnim Lo that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives without the chiyuv of ruining it with getting drunk and being busy with costumes and this and that. So it's so much more powerful at that point. And so much more of a koach. That's what I think. And that's why it's really a friendly eitzah to everybody. That it shouldn't be taken lightly, this whole idea of Purim Katan. And it should be utilized in a good way. Bifrat binyanei tefillah, to pray, say Tehillim. There are many credible poskim that say clearly that you could say Tehillim at night as well on Purim Katan and Shushan Purim Katan, meaning the eve of, because again it's a day that we don't say Ancha Hashem, so it would be allowed just like Shabbat. And obviously, to go in the ways of Hashem, and that has to do with tzedakah, to make sure that it's the day of tzedakah, that we should do big tzedakahs on that day. And bevadai, hopefully everybody will have some good story, because then I'll have, before the next Purim Katan, well, by then Mashiach will be here for sure. But either way, when Mashiach comes, also have good stories. We'll be able to say that when we were in exile, we had some good stories. A few young people that decided to turn it into a day of something special. The tzaddikim, the chassidim and anshe ma'aseh, they make a sudah, and in order to make sure it's a sudat mitzvah, because it's a machloket after all, so you also make a siyum masechet, therefore it's for sure a sudat mitzvah, and that exemplifies the power in a great way. By me and the different programs that I have, different kollels of assistance on Purim Katan, we're making, I don't know the exact number, but my target is to get to 63, just because that's the gematria of my last name. 63 different siyumei hashas. That means combined between the kollel, they finish shas and they make a siyum hashas on Purim Katan. That should be a schus for Klal Yisrael, B'ezrat Hashem. That should bring something that should bring Yeshua. It's unbelievable. And we see ma'asim b'chol yom. Because Baruch Hu shows clearly His love to, and this is a big, big thing. V'achodesh asher nehefach la'el mi'agom l'simcha. Rav Nachman writes, we say this all the time, yesh inyan, there is an inyan she'akol mitapech l'tova. That everything flips around instantly to the good. Everything that you thought was bad, in 1 second, boom. Everything turns around to the good. How long did it take from the time Yosef was in the dumps in prison to the time he was the king of the whole Egypt? A matter of minutes. Vayiritzu min habor, this is after being 12 years in the worst situation in the world. They expedited him, then they went and gave him everything in the world, and instantly Paro says, no, you're the new ruler, take over, you're second in command, but really he made him first in command, it just wasn't for his ego, so he called him second in command. That's what Rav Nachman's writing. Yesh inyan she'akol mitapech l'tova, there's such a thing that Baruch Hu can make, that everything instantly flips around to the good. That it should all, literally, not in theory and fantasy, and literally, akol mitapech l'tova, it all turns around to the good. I want to share with you a story. I'm skipping the name just because I don't have permission to say the name, but somebody very dear to me. A gentleman was in Uman on Rosh Hashanah. A gentleman in Yud, and he was there. He goes every year. He was there with all his sons and sons-in-law and grandson, all the boys of the family that were over 7. We're talking about Bli Ayin Hara, many, many people. What do the women do? So Avadia once said in a shiur that Elul is Rashi Tevot Ani Uman V'ishti Azazel. I go to Uman and my wife, goes wherever. It doesn't work like that. So in that family, they have a nice thing. That if the boys are all going to Uman, so the girls all get together. The ladies, whatever, the wives and that. So they take, I think, like a little hall or whatever it is, because we're talking about a big family. Can't count how many grandchildren, great-grandchildren are there. And they take a thing. And they have the meals together, and they figure out a way to sleep. Whatever, they figure it out, and they spend Rosh Hashanah together. Nashim Tzidkaniyot, they have a big power. And they're there, and it's the first night of Rosh Hashanah. And then this tzaddik's wife was a woman in her 70s. And she's like the head of the family, we'll call it at that point, right? She's the mother of everybody there, her mother-in-law, grandmother, great-grandmother. And she's there Friday with them, the eve of Rosh Hashanah. First night. First night of Shana, they don't go to shul in that community. That's not the women don't go to shul except for Tkiyat Shofar and Kriyat Megillah. So they didn't go to shul, obviously, and they came to this hall where they were going to be. And not even 5 minutes in, after Kiddush, the great-grandmother, we can call her, slips, falls, and her head hits the marble of the floor. And she's suddenly talking weird, and the kids say all the medical symptoms of something not good. So they call an ambulance, of course, right? Shana, Narajat, Pikuach Nefesh, you stop everything. They call an ambulance, they rush her to the hospital. They do a brain scan, an MRI, a CT, CT first, an MRI, and there's a couple of big neurologists there that are looking at it, and they say, on one hand, we see something. It looks like a concussion, and that would require an immediate surgery, but the location doesn't make sense. And how could it be? And the size and the color, and they're fighting between each other. What is this? But time's is working like a bomb against them. Every second counts in these situations. In a quick conclusion, the doctors decided to open up the exact area where she got hit, because with the unknown, not knowing what's there. But they said they have nothing to lose. And they opened up the front part of her forehead. It should only be on Sonei cell, we should never know. And they found a 4-centimeter skull-based tumor that they were able to remove on the spot. Now what's crazier about the story is, one of the neurologists later on said, I spoke to him afterwards, that it was pressing against a nerve, and if it would have grew even a drop more, it would have pressed a drop harder, and that would have been the end of the lady's life, and over. When her husband came rushing back from Wuhan, Motzei Rosh Hashanah, and he heard everything that happened, his wife was in step-down ICU at that point, he said that's exactly what Rav Nachman said. Yesh inyan sha'kol mitapech l'tova. She fell on her head the first night of Rosh Hashanah, exactly when she's with all her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. That's her moments of nachat of the year, and such a holy day of the year. And it looks like the worst sign, right? What would somebody say? If the first night somebody falls and ends up in the hospital, that's a bad sign for the year. And what ended up happening? It was the biggest Yeshua in the world for her. Exactly that saved her life. We don't always know. We don't always understand which way. And Hashem doesn't need your advice of how to help you. Leave it up to Him. Sometimes we tell God how to help us. It's okay. He knows better. He doesn't need your advice. It's just fine. It's just fine. The most common case like that is in business. We're always busy telling God how to help us make money. Tell Hashem, send me parnasa. How? Who cares? It makes a difference to you how it comes. It make a difference to you? Why does it? On this I also have a great story from this week. A boy told me, a youngster, 24-year-old, single boy in Lakewood, tells me, I got a good story for you. I said, let me hear. So he's in the real estate, whatever, I don't know, he's a broker or something. And he had a closing that he worked on for a while, not such a big deal, but in relative to his age, it was the biggest deal that he was going to make yet. And he worked on it for a couple of months. He was really excited because it was a lump sum of money, definitely in relative to what he's used to. And a day before the closing, they blew it up. Over stupidity. Really stupidity. And he said it was so disappointing to him that he was like a shattered person. He said the next morning he didn't even want to go work. He started thinking, maybe it is not for me, I should find something else to do. So, and then he went to a shiur. He learns with somebody every day, whatever, he calls it a shiur. And they learn 5 minutes Shara Bitachon and Chovat Al-Lavot. Besides for their learning Gemara for 55 more minutes. And in the 5 minutes of that day, it was exactly the piece where the Chovat Al-Lavot talks about, don't tell Hashem how to give you money, leave it up to Him. And he saw that as a sign from Shamayim, he accepted every day with love, and he moved on. Says a couple of weeks later, he sees on his phone a call coming in on the ID, the same number of the guy who blew up the closing. He said he didn't want to pick up because he said, A, he doesn't trust the guy anymore. B, he was scared if I pick up the phone, he blew up a closing, I'm going to blow up at him. It's better maybe not. So he didn't pick up. He sent it to voicemail. Guy leaves him a message, please, when you get a chance, call me. I think I got something big for you. He figured, what does he have to lose? Worst case, he's making a fool out of him. He'll call. Calls the guy. Guy picks up and tells him like this. He says, I'm a frum Jew. That closing I had to blow up, because last minute I realized it just doesn't make sense for me, and the amount of liquid it'll tie up, and whatever. And one of my investors that was supposed to go in when we pulled out, so at that point I had to blow it up. But I feel bad. You're a young guy starting, and probably discouraged you, and whatever. I really feel bad. Because I got a deal now that I'm about to close, and I can stick a broker in on it. Let me put you in instead, like as the broker, to compensate you for throwing you off the other one. And I got the other party to agree that you're going to be the broker on it. He told me the difference in commission that he got from this other deal, and the day he told me the story was the day he closed on it. That one did close. So the difference from the original one was 17 times more. He said that day that guy blew up the closing on me, the day before, whatever, so I was cursing him and everything in between now. Because I was so upset, I was so angry. I was like, well, I was angry at Hashem, I was angry at, I was even angry at the brokerage firm that I worked for. Whoever I could be angry at, I was angry. He said, so I told him, and now let's think what Hashem was doing that day. Hashem was sitting in Shamayim laughing at you, saying, you moron, you fool. Look at you, you nutcase. What's wrong with you? This is all part of a strategy. I'm setting you up for something so much greater. Don't tell me how to send you parnasa. I have my own ways of sending you parnasa. There's a piece in Rabbi Yisrael Salanda that he writes that a lot of times Hashem wants to make a person rich, and the reason why he ends up not becoming rich is because he tells God how to give him money. And what he tells God is to only give him a small amount of money. And so he limited God, so God can't give him wealth anymore. Give it up to Hashem. He doesn't need your advice. He ran the world beautifully for over 5,700 years. He can continue doing it beautifully. He just needs your relationship, your connection. That's all he needs. The rest leave up to him. And that's the whole inyan of Purim, by the way. And closer to Purim and Adar Bet, we need to talk about it a lot. Of not to mix your mind with the Dat Elyon. Leave the Dat Elyon, leave the wisdom of Hashem to Hashem, and leave your wisdom to your wisdom. And each one should do his job and his role. And when we mix the entities, that's where the trouble starts. But if we keep the entities separately, that's where we have Hatzlacha in life. Now I want to share with you two more things that are off subject completely. But when I got good things, I got to share them. That's the way it works in life. I would want somebody to share this with me, so I'll share it with you. Today, somebody showed me, and he does this every day, different things that he finds. The guy who collects manuscripts and old Sfarim, and there's whatever, that's his hobby. He's a businessman, a successful person, but he has a hobby. He buys all these things, Rav Yaakov Yagen, other rabbis. So he showed me in a sefer that brings down, he writes, this is coming from Kitvei Ha'ari HaNe'elam, but I found other sources for it as well since then, that were later on. What does Kitvei Ha'ari HaNe'elam mean? Most people don't even know, myself included. I called somebody who knows more than me, and he told me that there's the regular Kitvei Ha'ari that we all know of, and then there were a few things that they found later that they say that the Ari wrote, but wasn't printed in Kitvei Ha'ari itself, so they call it a Ne'elam, like to emphasize this was added at a different time, or this wasn't published in the original Kitvei Ha'ari. That's what somebody explained me today. This guy found in a sefer. That's his unbelievable thing. Sephardic Jewry, I think, are more acquainted with this. That a lot of people, when they pray for those who are not well, so during Rifa'inu, in the middle, there's like a little Yiratzon that you could say, the Chidah writes you should do it for yourself. You should pray for yourself. Hashem should keep you healthy. And but there's also a nusach that you could add in somebody's name or pray for somebody. And it seems like it's muvah from the Ari, and there's other sources to this as well. That he writes, "Harbe asukim velo alta bi'adam." Many prayed for people there by Rifa'inu, and it didn't work out for them. Person it didn't help. Person didn't come better. So how do you explain that? And you can't say that over there the Ari means to talk about the general concept of prayer, because the general concept of prayer, there's thousands of pages written in Chazal from Bavli all the way down. to explain what does it mean a prayer answered or not answered. It means he was specifically asking about this prayer in this place for sick people. What does the Ari mean by that? Why does it not? So Ari says an interesting thing. And I'm telling you, there's many other sources to the same thing as well. That when we pray for somebody, Hashem should make somebody better. It's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is we're doing the right thing. The bad thing is that when we say his name, God opens his books in heaven and sees if he deserves to get better or not. And unless there's enough merits that he has or is being done for him to get better, it does not work. Not only doesn't work, it could actually make things worse. We know, like, for example, we should never know, in court, sometimes when somebody appeals something, it could work against him. It doesn't have to work in his favor. It could go both ways. So the Ari says, really, there's a danger involved in. So what's the eitzah? And he writes something that he says that if you do this, it's going to work. The beginning of Amidah, in the first three brachos, the first bracha, that we have a chiyuv kavanah of every word, and that without that you're not yetzer the mitzvah of Shemona Esrei. It's as if you didn't pray. You'd have to pray again if you didn't have in mind what you're saying in the beginning. We praise God for many things. Right? Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, and then Samech Noflim v'Rofeh Cholim, Ka'im U'Nato L'Shenei Afar, Mi Kamocha Ba'al Gvurot. All these praises for God. Comes the Ari and writes, if somebody who's not well that they know and they want to pray for, when they say those two words, V'Rofei Cholim, over there at the beginning of Amidah, they shouldn't say any words out of their mouth. In their mind, they should have in mind that person. And then when they get to the Fa'enu, they should say the prayer for the person. What's the difference? There's an unbelievable thing. Because at the beginning of the Amidah, we're not asking God for anything. We're praising God, we're blessing God. And we're titling God Rofei Cholim, the one who makes the ill healthy. It's a big praise. If you went and titled somebody that he's great, then he has to come through for you afterwards. And that has nothing to do with you, that has to do with himself. In a different sefer I saw from the Chidah, he brings this down without saying where it comes from, but he brings down, maybe it was his own chidush as well. There are many Sfarim that say this, by the way. And he says a little bit of a mashal over there. He says if a guy is a very wealthy man, and somebody comes to ask him for money, says, the guy could say, I don't have. When's the one time he can't say he doesn't have? If you walked in and his safe is open and stacks of gold and cash in there, what's he going to tell you? He doesn't have? Hey, turn around, look behind you, you have plenty. By the way, I heard this from Rav Shach, Zechat Tzadik Levachas Chutei Again, I think it was frightening. Rav Shach told me once that the reason why Hashem made a cycle in the world that there's big financial crashes and people lose their money is because when they have money and people come to them for tzedakah, they say, I'm tight now, I'm not liquid now, I'll come back next week, next month, next year, next lifetime, whatever they tell you, each one with his nusach. So Hashem makes a financial crash every few years, and then you hear, Joey lost 40 million. So the lie should be exposed. You just said you don't have. You had 40 million to lose. And that's why there's a financial cycle. That's what Shach told me himself. He said it's Hashem's way of showing people, don't lie to others. You don't want to give. Say, I don't want, I'm not interested. But don't lie, don't say I don't have. Because I'm going to show the world that you do have. It's an interesting thing from Shach itself. But anyway, comes the Chidah and says, same idea over here. He says, you come to Hashem and say, Rofei Cholim, you're the doctor of all doctors. And now you tell him somebody's sick, he needs you. You can't say, I'm not going to help. Because Kaviyachol, you're cornering the Rebbeinu Shalom with helping out. And I think the same thing would apply to everything that it says in the Shvach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the beginning of Amidah. Any one of those things that a person's in, if a person has kavanah on what it is that he needs, in that part, in the Shvach part of Hashem, so at that point later on when he prays for it, it has to happen already. And this is an unbelievable eitzah. Unbelievable eitzah. And I end off with something off subject completely, but it's interesting. very out of character because I'm not into mystics and these type of things in general, unless they're sourced. This one is sourced. I heard it from a friend, who heard it from a very reliable source, and then later on I did a lot of due diligence, and I can actually source this all the way up to the Gaon of Vilna. There is a way, and I'm not going to get into all the details of Ilchot Safut and Kavanot of Sofrim and all of that, even though you should be very careful with Safut. There was just another bust in Israel 3 weeks ago. They busted a machsan, it was like a basement, let's call it, where there was 17 Arab kids from Gaza writing Mezuzot. Yeah, unbelievable. Frightening. Now, when you look at these Mezuzot, those kids were talented artists. They're gorgeous. You would see it in the store, you'd be like, this is the greatest Mezuzah ever. And a goy wrote it, a mini terrorist wrote it. A pele. I said, not that you're allowed to joke about such matters, there could be the kids were writing to the Jews, be aware, soon you're going to have to say Shema Yisrael when we get near you. But that's the court. It's very cute. This whole idea of stam, it's very scary. It's a very complicated subject. You have to be very, very cautious with it. It's more than that. Not everything could be checked. A mezuzah, we could check it and it can come out perfect. But if the sofer didn't have kavanah by Shem Hashem, it's pasul anyway, and there's no way to check the sofer's kavanah, right? So if we don't know who the sofer is and know that he's Yirei Shamayim and know that he's doing it for the right reasons, then by default we're in trouble before we started already. And Safut is a very hard profession because it's very boring, sitting and writing all day. Why don't you want to sit and write all day? Remember your school days, writing reports. You want to go back to that? I don't think so. Kalachom it is that everything has to be done in a certain way. So I was told this, and after I was told it was hard for me to accept, so I went and did a lot of research on the subject, and I resourced it back to the Gaon's days. And there is a way to write a mezuzah based on a certain way of writing and certain intentions that has in it the power to open up a person's mazel in life. If a person doesn't, something's not going right in his life, it has in it the power to put it, especially in the inyan of parnasah, but in other things as well. And the first gentleman who told me this story told me a name of a person who I know very well. And he told me that this gentleman didn't have a job for a while. Lo aleinu, we should never know. And he wrote him a mezuzah like that. And the guy changed his mezuzah on the front door. And within, I think, either 1 day or 2 days, I don't remember, he got 3 job offers, each one better than the next. So it's badukum nuseh. It's not just, and it's coming from sources, you know how much I make fun of mystics and things like that. I'm as anti these things as could be. But this specific thing is badukum nuseh. And I'm not, the kahal here looks relatively young in the majority, so I don't know if anybody has issues like that. They feel their mazel is not exactly working on their side or whatever. But Baruch Hashem, there's thousands of people that listen to the shiurim. So I'm sure between them there are many people like that. And I did, after getting the blessing of a couple of great Gedolei Israel to do this, I would never get involved in things like this on my own because I make fun of them in general, just for that reason alone. So I got the blessing to do this, that I'm getting Bli Neder, a specific sofer that I trust. It was a really Yirei Shamayim and an amazing tzaddik on many, many fronts, to write for me an allocated amount of mezuzot like this, because it's just whatever it is, there's only that much that we could do. Both Ashkenaz and Sephardim, different ones. Now I don't believe in making money on Tashmishei Kedusha, on anything that has to do with mitzvahs. So I'm selling a mitzvah with a mitzvah. That's what I'm doing. It's that simple. I'm selling a mitzvah with a mitzvah. I wouldn't even, when somebody comes to me for mezuzah, I don't even take my cost. I just give it to them, because I'm not saying that's right, that's wrong, but Yaakov has this craziness, and that's one of it. We don't make money on mitzvahs. That's why if I would be an etrogim dealer, it would be bad news. Everybody would have free etrogim. So I can't go into any line of anything that has to do with, it would be just the bad, maybe it would be good news, it would be more of Klal Yisrael or whatever. But each one has to know his thing. So this is what I went to Gdolei Yisrael and spoke. I didn't go, I spoke to a few Gdolei Yisrael that I have contact with, and they all gave me the blessing for this, and I purposely went to Hasidic rabbis and to Sfaradi rabbis and to people, to all types to make sure that this was unanimously agreed, because it's so out of character for me. But on the other hand, I felt if I'm holding on to something that could help people and could do good for people, so it's a crime not to do it. So being that now is berech, more or less, is a drop more than, it's a drop more, than 30 days before Purim. And as you know, from 30 days before Purim, harassment starts, because between Purim and Pesach, we have to feed tens of thousands of people and help tens of thousands of people. I figured I'm going to make a trade-off, a mitzvah for a mitzvah. That for every $720 commitment that I can get towards our charity funds, I'm going to, in exchange, arrange a mezuzah like this for whoever it is that needs it. Like this, I don't have to feel guilty that I got any money for it, so I didn't get nothing. I'll absorb the cost of the mezuzah myself. That's my contribution. And whatever the difference is, which believe it or not is not much, because a regular mezuzah takes a few minutes to write. Not an hour or whatever. A mezuzah like this takes a very long time, and it's also much bigger in size, and it has every hiddur in the world. Just to give you little examples. There's a hiddur al pi halacha called tagim kesidran. I don't know if there's 10 sofrim right now in the US to do that at all. When you write, besides for the letter, there's the parts on top, the tagim, the little lines on top. If you want to write a shin and then make the tagim and then go to the next letter, it's much harder and much more time consuming. So what do? They first write the whole mezuzah, and then there are people that specialize in writing the tagim. They make the decorations on top of the letters. Mikar din is kosher probably, but of course there's a big hiddur to do tagim kesidran, to do it the right way. Another little example. Today, almost every sofer that exists, I'm not saying every, there are a few not like that, but the vast, vast majority of sofrim write with something called a pintograph. A pintograph is really something, definitely the tagim, could be even the letters Hashem Yachim, but definitely the tagim. It's technically a metal pen that has ink that comes out of it, whatever, that's what they use. Are there heterim? Yeah, there are some poskim that say it's okay. Is it lechatchila? No, it's a b'di'evid. Do you have a way to check that when you buy a mezuzah? No, you send it to a sofer to check. He tells you the most beautiful writing, but you have no way to know what it was written with. And like this, the list goes on and on and on of example after example after example after example. And I think every chumrah and every hiddur that exists in Ilchos Mezuzah that's possible to do on a logistic level, or that's not just far-fetched and doesn't make sense to do because certain things just don't add up in halacha to do. We do the best that people should have as the most mudad possible, from the klaf to the ibud to the kavanah. We don't deal with a sofer that listens to music in the background or that stops in the middle and doesn't have concentration. Only the best. And honestly, soon it's going to be Purim. You have friends that have a tough time in life or they're going through rough times in life. Instead of giving them a candy basket that's going straight to the garbage and wasting your money in some candy store, give them a good mehudadika mezuzah that you gave tzedakah to get. So they have a schus of tzedakah, they have something that can open their mazah in life up, and you gave them the best gift possible. So it's also a good gift item. I would exchange the whole envelope business by weddings with giving people mudah mezuzot, maybe their life would be better. But for example, and to strengthen my general case, nothing to do with this personal thing that I definitely will be promoting a lot in the near future. This same sofer that told me this originally showed me. First he told me, but I told him I don't say all the stories without evidence, so you got to show me evidence. So he showed me the evidence. I have it in my phone, I could show it to you if you want to come up afterwards and see. That he has a cousin that La'aleinu had a brain, I think it was a brain tumor, or a tumor of sorts, something, that was situated between his eyes in his head. And before he went into surgery, he decided to go check his mezuzah. And it was pasul. And which part of the mezuzah had a problem with it? The words Beini Nechem, between your eyes. I have a picture of the guy in the hospital after his recovery with the medical report and a picture of the mezuzah and everything on my phone. I have the whole thing on my phone. Exactly that. It's not a joke, this business of Mezuzot. A lot of people have a lot of situations in life. And I'll tell you something that I had myself a few years ago. Could imagine that as one who deals with Mezuzot, and not deals as a business, but who knows the basics at least, and for years has been promoting the values of using the most mudah, tefillin and Mezuzot and Sifrei Torah. And when it came to getting myself things, of course I went to the best and paid the most extravagant prices that exist. This was I think about 4 years ago, had a very awkward thing that was going on medically, and I'll describe it to you. Those of you who are in the medical world will know what this means right away. Chest pains with left arm burning sensation going down to the finger, and numbness on one side of the face. Those are all the bad cardio symptoms that you could possibly have. ER visit after ER visit after ER visit after ER visit. I don't even want to remember how many ERs I was in. Shem Yerachem. And everything's all right. Stress test perfect. This test perfect. Every cardiologist, Alan Schwartz himself, Mr. Man, the guy tells me, kid, I don't know what's wrong with you. I said, so can I stop going to the ER? He says, no, anytime you have this, you have to go to the ER. It's dangerous. I said, but we already went through this movie so many times. Enough. The joke's over. So forget about it. I have a high pain tolerance. I can deal with it. He says, it's not safe. I said, but you're not giving me a solution. You're not. So what's the solution over here? I asked my Rebbe told me to go to some lady in Yerushalayim to ask her to say Tillim for me. Says, this lady's a big tzaddikus, whatever, go to her, she should say Tillim for you. But my Rebbe says, I don't ask questions. He gave me an address, I went, I knocked on the lady's door, I said, Hineni, here I am, this is my name, tell me what I got to do for you, we have to make a deal, you have to pray for me that this thing stops. She tells me that she has some little program, organization, they give out food and whatever every week. Maybe I could help out a little bit. I said, gladly. I helped her out, not a little bit, a lot of it. Until today, I help her out on a weekly basis. And it's an amazing thing that she does. And she says, give me a name. So I give her the name. And she's staring at the paper that I gave her the name. And she tells me, did you check your tefillin shel yad? Tefillin shel yad means the tefillin of your hand. So I told her, I checked it. Rosh Chodesh Elul. And this was, I would say, Shvat time. So she says, check it again. So I said, Rebbitzin, Mchilat Kvodech, excuse me, but Namon Al Pi Halacha, you never have to check your tefillin. As long as you don't take, leaving it hot and cold. If you're careful with it, there's a chazakah. Mezuzot, you have to check. But tefillin doesn't say, yeah. Mishnah Berurah brings down that Yirei Shamayim and Elul should check his tefillin, that's why I did it. Number two, it also does harm to tefillin if you check it too frequently, because they have to open and close, and there's a lot of room for error along the way. So number three, it's not the first time I checked my tefillin. I checked my tefillin many times. And trust me, I got the best sofer, the best parashiot, the best, the computer check, the this check, everything the best, with all the chumot and all the idurim. She said, listen, you came to me, I'm going to pray for you either way, but I'm telling you, check your tefillin anyway. I came back to America. I called my father. I told him that. This is what she told me. This is who it is. My Rebbe sent me to her, whatever. And should I do it or not? To me, it sounds crazy. So I don't care about the $120 to check the tefillin. I care about, in Elul, I want to check it again. So the opening and the closing and that's not good. He tells me, listen, your Rebbe sent you to her? That's what she said? That's what your Rebbe sent you for. Do it. So I went to the original sofer to check my tefillin in Elul. I told him, buddy, we got a problem. So he said, what's the problem? I said, I'm not going to tell you the details now. I'll tell it to you after you've done your job. Well, you checked my tefillin in Elul. I trust you. You told me everything's perfectly fine. Somebody's telling me that I got to check my tefillin, hinting to me that maybe something's not fine. I need you to check it again. I'll pay you again. But do me a favor. Be extra careful. Be extra careful. he took it very serious. That, he knows me and he knows how careful I am about these things. And he said, don't worry, careful's an understatement. He says, I'm going to get every Megia over here. Megia means the people that check. Everyone is going to check it. There's not going to be one that doesn't check it. They have 7 or 8 guys that work there. It'll take 2 days, find different tefillin to use in the meantime. I took my brother's tefillin. And we'll get back to you. About a day and a half, 2 days later, he calls me, come. I said, what's with the tefillin? Okay or not okay? He says, come. As soon as he didn't answer me yes right away, I realized maybe I'm up to no good over here. So I went to him. He says, your tefillin are kosher 100%. Not only kosher, they're mehudar sheba mudarim, the writing and that, unreal. And we happen to know who the sofer that wrote it for you is. Can't get better. He says, but I want to tell you something scary. He says, when we checked it last time, we checked the Parashiyah, the Shalosh, and the Parashiyah, the Shavah, the ones from the head and the one from the hand. So now, it's not always done straight. Sometimes we stop in the middle for mincha, or stop in the middle to get something to eat, or somebody has to go to the restroom. So what do we do as Sofrim? With a little pencil on the bottom corner, we write, Muga, this one is done already, and then we go on to the next. Or if we're in the middle, we write what line we're up to, so when we come back, we know where to continue from. Al pi halacha, that pencil mark, according to most poskim, is not an issue. But Moshe Feinstein holds that it's a problem. It's like an extra writing on the thing, and it can be an issue in the thing. He says, in your tefillin, when we did the Agah, we wrote something on one of the corners, and we forgot to erase it. He says, if you want to know about the tefillin part, it's perfect. But according to Rav Moshe, this wasn't right. We're sorry, we apologize, we fixed it, everything's fine now. And he showed me a picture, he took a picture of it that I should see on the corner or whatever. The next morning I put on tefillin, and that was the last day I had to deal with that nonsense. Now I'll tell you even better, I'm a lefty. A lefty puts on tefillin on his right arm, he uses his left hand to put on tefillin. Hashem was telling me, every one of those attacks, you're putting on a tefillin that according to the greatest posek of America, is not the way it should be. You better get this fixed. That's a story with me, not that I heard or somebody told me or this or that. I think there's a great lesson from that. So b'vadai, if we have something that comes from a Masoret and like the Leisel give their seal on and whatever, it could be there's a reason to think about it and then something to take seriously and consider. And I leave that option open to the Kahal Kadosh and all my viewers and followers in all different ways. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help that this coming week, PURIM KATAN should bring us Dvarim Dovim Be'ezrat Hashem, great things, in Simcha and happiness, for Shlema, for Kol Cholei Yisrael, with good news, V'ruchaniyut, V'gashmiyut. Hashem should say enough to the Tzarot of Am Yisrael, and each one should find his Yeshua and everything that he needs. V'meira v'yameinu, amen v'amen.